The 1950s, known for minimal protection gear, wooden sticks, and heavier pucks, where every shift on the ice was a battle for survival. The game was raw and punishing. Fast forward to the 2020s, and the game has evolved. More technical, faster, and more intense. Today, athletes guide with precision, equipped with carbon fiber sticks, high-tech skates, and armor-like protection. How did we get here in the first place? In this video, we'll explore how two hockey eras still share the same passion for the game, but are very different in how they are played. In the late 40s, the Brooklyn Americans stepped away from the NHL, setting the stage for what many now call hockey's golden era. Though the term Original Six has been used to describe this time, it's a somewhat misleading label, especially for those who have only known the NHL that includes teams like the Pittsburgh Penguins. The true beginning of the Original Six era started a few years later, when goal scoring had returned to more familiar patterns. By any measure, this was a period of remarkable stability in the NHL, and the evolving nature of the game was reflected in the scoring. From 1953, with 4.8 goals per game, to 1962, where it rose to 6.0, the sport moved at a steady and deliberate pace. For the goaltenders, this was a golden age, despite a season that had stretched to 70 games and rules that demanded more. Backup goalies were seldom needed. With moderate scoring and only 6 teams, a good goaltender would quickly rise to fame. This was the era of legends like Jacques Plante, Glenn Hall, Terry Sawchuk, Gump Worsley, and Johnny Bower. If you like the content so far, drop a like or subscribe. Thank you. With just 6 teams employing talent, the best players were easy to spot. It was a time when the greatest names were heard: Gordie Howe, Maurice and Henry Richard, John Beliveau, George Armstrong, and Tim Horton. In this era, the look of the ice had advanced from a dull gray surface to a bright, pristine white color surface. While the term artificial ice is often used, it's a bit misleading. This was real ice. Water was poured over a concrete base, cooled by refrigerant brine running through pipes beneath. But before this transformation, the gray concrete underneath made it hard for fans to follow the black puck on the ice. Then, in the 1949 and 1950 season, the National Hockey League made a simple but significant decision. They painted the ice white. This innovation greatly improved visibility, making it easier for spectators to keep up with the fast-moving game. The paint likely contained titanium dioxide, a pigment known for its pure white attribute. White reflects all visible light, and the better the paint, the more light it reflects, creating that crisp, clear surface. Television viewers first saw the breakthrough in October 1952 during the debut of Hockey Night in Canada. But when color TV shows came, the intense brightness of the white ice overwhelmed early cameras, leading to a brief experiment with blue ice. Skating on that ice was different than today. It wasn't as carefully maintained, so players had to adapt to a surface that could be unpredictable, with patches that became chipped or rutted as the game wore on. The skates they wore back then were simple, made of leather and steel. The boots were stiff and had little padding compared to today's skates, which made them uncomfortable, especially after hours of play. But these skates were built to last, and the players had to lace them up tightly to keep their ankles supported as they battled across the ice. The blades were straight and narrow, designed for speed and sharp turns. though the technology was nowhere near as advanced as modern skates. Still in the hands of skilled players, they moved like lightning. Meanwhile, the gear they wore was basic by today's standards. Thin leather gloves, padded with felt, was the norm. Helmets were unheard of, leaving their heads exposed by flying pucks and sticks. The shoulder pads, made of leather and cotton, offered minimal protection, and goaltenders often wore little more than a chest protector, and leg pads, which were made of heavy stitched leather. Everything was designed for mobility more than safety. Moreover, hockey sticks in the 1950s were handcrafted from solid wood, ash, hickory, or elm. These sticks had no curve to the blade, while they were flat, offering less control over the puck, but a more rugged feel. They were heavier, and when they broke, as they often did, players simply grabbed another from the bench. With these wooden sticks, players had to rely on their instincts and raw skill to send the puck flying with accuracy and power. However, the game in the 1950s had a gritty feel. The ice, the skates, the gear, and the sticks all combined to create a version of hockey that was tough, fast, and physical. And despite the basic equipment, or perhaps because of it, the legends of that era made the game their own. But today, the game of hockey is quite different. With recent advancement and several changes to the way the game is played, the 2020's era of ice hockey is a slightly different world. Usually, the red line, introduced in 1943, was needed in the 1950s. It limited long passes, as players could not pass the puck across two lines, which slowed down the game and reduced fast breaks. But over the years, the two-line pass rule was eliminated, allowing players to pass the puck from their defensive zone directly to a teammate in the offensive zone. This change sped up the game dramatically, increasing the pace of play and the number of scoring opportunities. While goaltenders in the 50s were known for wearing very minimal protective equipment, things are a bit different. These days, goaltender equipment has been significantly modernized, becoming lighter, more protective, and more technical. Helmets with face masks are now mandatory for all players, including goalies. They come with visors or full cages to shield faces from pucks or sticks. Today, players now have the tools to skate faster, shoot harder, and stay safer, all while the game itself has evolved into a display of high-speed strategy. Compared to the 1950s, the game of hockey in the 2020s is faster, more dynamic, and more skillful. But which do you prefer?